guys, my name is Liana Ruppert. I am a temporary community manager for the Fallout TV show, which is out now, and you should totally binge that. And usually this part is where I say, but that's not what this video is about. That's not the case. This is what the video is about.
That's a twist. That's very twisty.
We're going to be talking about Fallout, but disclaimer, I am not talking about Fallout as somebody that worked on it. I am talking about Fallout as a longtime fan. I don't know if you can see, but I have like the replicas behind. You can also see some of the Vault Boys behind. I have the big power armor helmet. I have like 4 different versions of Pip Boys. Like, I'm a huge Fallout fan. When I was at Game Informer, if anybody is watching that used to read what I used to write over there, I had a vertical. It was my own little column called Mod Corner. And Fallout was probably my most commonly referenced game because there's just so many fun and funny and good mods out there. And then all of the spin-off projects like Fallout Miami and New Orleans and Fallout 4 New Vegas. Like, there's so many cool fan projects that Bethesda totally supports that it's hard not to just kind of geek out. But now I feel okay posting this video because I wanted to talk about this immediately when the show came out. If you don't know, the show came out all at the same time on April 10th, which was actually 2 days earlier than projected launch. It was a surprise drop that we were very excited for. And it is being met with some of the coolest praise, which as a fan, that made me really happy. But as somebody that also, this was my first big TV project I got to be a part of. I know obviously I was a part of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but this felt different because I have such a long and loving history with this franchise that this felt different.
We're in a different era. Get over it. Whoa!
I was crying my eyes out on launch day. I think I stayed up till like 5 o'clock in the morning looking at people's reactions and reading reviews and watching videos.
Sure.
I'm doing my part.
Because that is part of the job as a CM, which I've talked about many times on this video, is just diving in and seeing what people are talking about and being able to remove yourself from that conversation so you can take in all of the data and all of the different talking points and all of the frustrations and the praise and all of that, objectively speaking. And I will say that it was very interesting to see the Fallout New Vegas retcon conversation because it blew up overnight, as expected with a binge watching format, but it was very aggressive, you know, and this ties into previous videos I've done before of what is feedback, what is critique, and what is just insulting.
Stop it. Get some help.
And it definitely, there were quite a few conversations that were firmly in the latter camp, but that doesn't discount the genuine criticisms that people had. And it's kind of difficult too because Fallout does span through multiple companies. Bethesda wasn't the creator of Fallout, and New Vegas wasn't under their core team. It was under Obsidian. Shout out to Obsidian. If you haven't played their Outer Worlds game, you definitely should, especially if you like New Vegas. Also, the Murder Mystery DLC, the final DLC that came out for that game. Yeah. Chef's kiss. I actually wrote a story about that in the Game Informer magazine side of how to execute the perfect murder mystery because they really did a good job. But without going into too much spoilers, obviously there will have to be some spoiling. Otherwise, we would not be able to talk about this at all. But I want to veer away from screenshots and clips and specifics, if that makes sense, because the overall goal of this video isn't to change anybody's mind. It's just to express an opinion as a fan, not as somebody that was attached to the project. Just reiterating that one more time for legal reasons.
Is that legal?
But I want to kind of address the elephant in the room of just how aggressive the conversation got. Also, I had pizza and it was really good.
I'm not proud of that last one, but I did it, man.
But I ate it like I've never eaten anything in my life because it was delicious. So there's like grease stains all over my shirt, and I'm too lazy to go fix that. So we're just gonna let me have this one, okay? Thank you. But yeah, it's very interesting to see because, you know, people were very upset. They're like, does this completely nullify New Vegas and what New Vegas was? Because New Vegas was a very important part of the overall Fallout story and saga because, you know, if you are a Fallout fan, you're very much aware of this, but the basis of Fallout is capitalism, obviously, but you have this illusion of safety, and then you come to find out that all of the vaults were actually like holding a really dark secret that was pawn pieces to a much bigger game from the elite rich society. So the story of Fallout New Vegas was very important because it was a pivotal time and it was a catalyst for the NCR. Like there's a lot of very important core story elements that are attached to this, and timeline wise also as well, with the different just a timing of when the bombs dropped and when the vaults were unlocked and when, you know, certain key times in Fallout history were relevant because that was a make or break time during that historical evolution, if that makes sense. So people saw the difference but in timelines. Part of, I will say, and this is not to discount the genuine criticism because there was legitimate criticism, but also I think a lot of people don't understand arrows.
How do I say this?
Because I saw a lot of people using a particular screenshot that had to do with an arrow, that they were speaking about it as if the arrow was pointing the other direction, which then would make the argument tied specifically to that asset make sense, but it was pointing the other way. And I think that's an important detail that some people may have lost. I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to talk.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Arguably, I should probably talk less, probably get me in less trouble, but, you know, it's neither here nor there. I think that, too, I think like, with gaming adaptations becoming more and more common, and let me tell you, there are some cool ones on the way that have not been announced yet. Like, y'all are going to lose your damn minds. Real talk, you're going to lose your damn minds. But I think it's really important because in order for that medium of video games to flourish in a way that is supported, it's important to know that there are, just like with video game development, there are going to be missteps, there are going to be creative mistakes, there are going to be creative takes that might not land the same way with certain people, and we need to make sure that that landscape has a fertile ground of feedback, not insults, so it, you know, these teams can have the freedom to make those mistakes so that they can evolve in a way that is a better fit for the source material, regardless of the IP that it's adapting. Because if we make it so stringent, if creative teams, and we see this a lot on the video game side, which is why devs are very vocal about, hey, feedback is wanted, but keep it civil. Because if you put on too much pressure that is negative, aggressive, let's be frank, borderline abusive, you cannot create with that hovering over your head. Have you ever had to do something, whether it be painting or writing or something that was at core rooted in creation? Did you have a better time when you were feeling rushed and pressure, or did you, when you let that creative energy kind of flow organically, did you find it easier to do it then? Same thing with games, same thing with game adaptations. And so I think right now it's really important to kind of recognize that these are not your video games. These are adaptations. And sometimes it's not about pivoting away from the source material, it's about expanding on the source material. And here's a spicy take, which is only spicy if you're an asshole.
Oh, here we go.
The Last of Us is a perfect example. We can all agree that The Last of Us did an amazing job at adapting that. That whole team understood the assignment. And even with damn near perfect praise, that didn't stop the episode that featured a homosexual couple from people trying to tank the show, the entire show, negating all previous enjoyment because they dared to see two men on screen. This is a bigger conversation. Homophobia is a thing. Preference is a thing. Die-hard loyalty is a thing. Here's the thing. That storyline didn't come out of nowhere. It came from the game. It was a note. And while there was a little retcon action to what the contents of the note said, it was needed because the whole point of that wasn't to be like, we're turning everybody gay, because that's not a thing.
I just wanted to see what the gay agenda looked like in person.
It was they saw an opportunity because the basis of The Last of Us, both the game and the TV show, was finding those lost moments of humanity when there is none. And what better way to do that than by telling very honest, very raw tales. And the start of their relationship in that show was not wasn't easy. It wasn't like, oh, I love him, we're gonna be fair. There was about animosity, there was not clicking, and then it showed the very real reality of relationships, especially when you're under tremendous pressure like an apocalypse, in a way that is very rarely left out of any relationship story arc, much less one that's not heterosexual in nature, because there tends to be more of an investment in heterosexual relationships because those are the types of relationships that are the path of least resistance. You're not going to be angering an entire group of people. But that's silly because those people do exist, and TV shows are a medium, and just like video games, are a medium to reflect back life as we know it. And just, if you want to go la 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 to certain parts of life, do I agree with that? No, but it's your right as a human being and hopefully an adult if you're watching this, but that's a you decision. That's a decision you got to do for you. You got to have the willpower to be like, I'm not interested in seeing a gay relationship for whatever reason, regardless if that reason is justified. Therefore, I will not watch this episode and I'll check back in next week.
Logical.
No, we can't do the responsible thing. We have to demand the show gets canceled. We have to create a hate brigade against the showrunners and the actors. We have to show we're angry. And I think all sides of the conversation are a little bit too angry. And when you get angry, you're speaking purely from a point of ego, and nothing of substance will ever be done when you're purely operating out of ego. Sometimes, as an adult, it is your responsibility to be like, this is not something I enjoy, therefore I will not partake in it.
Wow.
And it's as simple as that. But we can't have simple. Actually, we can. Thousands, millions of people do it every day. But unfortunately, social media makes conversations look much bigger than they actually are. And I have a lot of data to prove this as a community manager, that sometimes the trending topic on Twitter that seems like that's everybody's viewpoint, when you compare it to the overarching conversation, it's like less than 2% of the total conversation. So it really doesn't matter in the real world, but social media is a parasocial... Oh, ow, I just hit my foot. Okay, we're good. We're good. We're fine. Okay. Yes. Hello. Back on track.
Are you fucking shitting me?
That we need to be able to adjust our expectations and our data leanings and how we approach conversations, knowing full well that while this may seem like a big issue on social, take a step back from social media for a second and see if it really is that big of an issue. Because I think too, when people have really bad takes like that and really at base hateful takes and selfish takes that you think you can talk for an entire market of people, if we're not reacting to that, they lose that power too. It's amplifying because we are amplifying it, and that works on any side of whatever conversation is happening. It is a two to tango party of the initial reaction, and then the reaction to the reaction, and then the reaction to the reaction of the reaction, and so forth. And it's just this never-ending trail of misery and bullshit and just shenanigans that is just raising our blood pressure collectively as a human collective. So stop it.
Shut it down.
Back to Fallout. Even people that had the universal praise about Fallout understand how much the games mean to us as players. I do. As a player, I even had some nitpicks. There's a lot of videos about Fallout, the show, and a lot of them are praising certain characters, critiquing other characters. I'm very much in the camp that as much as I love Aaron and I love what he did with Maximus, I really think he portrayed that character very well. I think the character itself, I would have preferred seeing some tweaking, because the first introduction we have to him, he's so diehard brotherhood, but his actions don't match up to that. And the way he sees the world doesn't match up to that. And the Brotherhood, they take it very seriously. A really good example of this is Fallout 4 with Dance Paladin. Like, when he had to make that choice of, is this my path or not, dude had a straight up existential crisis to where he came out rolling up with like tidy whities on, like, what am I? And I think that that expectation of that's how the Brotherhood behaves as on a human level was there for me. But that didn't negate the enjoyment I felt for the rest of the show. And it didn't negate me being able to enjoy his performance for what it was in the TV show, because I have those experiences where the Brotherhood behaves how I see them behaving in my head and what I've witnessed in the games, because I can simply go replay those games. If something is not 100% one-on-one canon with a video game, we really need to not knee-jerk react and really think about the overall scope. With Fallout, this is something that is very easy to see because you can see it written out plainly on the socials that Fallout is meant for the fans of the Fallout games, but they wanted it to also be available for people that aren't familiar with the games, that are just looking for a good, funny, morbid TV show. And the problem with balancing that is sometimes you have to make characters or certain storylines a little bit less nuanced than what a game would do, because a game, especially like look how big Fallout 4 was, you're going to be there forever. And a TV show doesn't have that freedom. It has a lot more freedom than a movie format, which is why I've been pretty vocal in the last couple of years that if there's going to be an adaptation, it needs to be from a TV show perspective, because you're going to need that time to present the world in a way that people that are not familiar with whatever game's being adapted can still understand the world building and follow along. And then hopefully we're creating more video game fans because they love the show so much. Now they want to see, well, if I love the show so much, maybe I should give the games a shot, which is only going to enrich our community because that's more people. That's people coming in without all the crappy baggage of all of the bullshit this community goes through on a day-to-day basis. And I feel like ultimately that can enrich the overall community, making the bridge between video games and other forms of media less daunting. And that will also create a fertile ground for even more fruitful adaptations in the future. So going back specifically to the New Vegas Retcon conversation, you know, Todd recently did do a press junket where he does talk about this, of how no, New Vegas is still canon. Here's why we made this change. And again, I'm trying to keep very specifics out of it. I'm going to link the Todd Howard interview in the comments below. So you're more than happy to, read up on that if you would like to, and if you want to get the specifics. But there needed to be some changes because there is going to be a longevity between that connection of the game and the TV show, especially when you release a TV show in that format where all of the episodes release at once. You're losing out on organic week-to-week engagement, but that doesn't mean it's a lose-lose situation. There's a reason why some shows operate better under a full launch versus a weekly launch. And while I'm not going to go into that, you have to keep in mind, okay, this TV show came out all at once. So what are their plans for retention? What are their plans for keeping that conversation going? A good way for that to happen is season continuation, having different seasons, not having it a one-off season show. And we saw this with Halo. The first season of Halo was god awful, man. I'm going to be honest. I wanted to like it. And I had some hope for it. And I have a video on this, which that video was literally after only just seeing one episode because that show was a weekly basis. And while I was like, ooh, this is a little rough, there were enough moments that felt like a game, like when he's running through and he's chucking grenades and you can hear the sound effects. As a longtime Halo fan, which you can see with my needler and my energy sword behind me, that was enough for me to be like, okay, that's the connection to the video game I needed to be all in. But then they just went off. And I've already had a video on this, so I don't really need to talk about it. But like, it was almost like the first half of the season was written by one team and the second half of the season was written by a completely different team. And both teams forgot to talk to each other.
What the fuck is going on in here on this day?
And it was just bad. It was bad. But it was already greenlit for a season 2. So they saw season 2 as an opportunity to learn from the mistakes that they made, which they owned up to. There was a lot of press leading up to the release of season 2 where they're like, yeah, we shouldn't have done this. We shouldn't have done that. We didn't need to see Master Cheekies. We didn't need to see him. That sex scene was so uncomfortable.
Why can't you just let me be happy?
Neither one of them looked like they wanted to be there. It was awkward as all hell. And they learned from that. They learned like, okay, that was not necessary for one, and it went way too far off the deep end of who we know Master Chief to be. He is Master Chief, not Master Cheekies. That wasn't the case with Fallout. Like, you can see the love of Fallout. Like, Nolan is a huge Fallout fan. Like, Fallout 3, you can see the DNA of Fallout 3 all throughout the show. And that's why when I couldn't talk about specifics of the show before launch, but people were asking, like, how did I like it? I always said it gave me the same feeling of joy that I got when I played Fallout 3 for the first time. And you can see that with the sound effects used that are directly from the game. You can see that from stem packs. In the games, they don't talk about like, well, here's a breakdown of what this does, and this is why it makes sense canonically. No, they just did it. And in the show, they did that too, which threw some non-gaming fan viewers for a loop. But that's this absurdity that is Fallout. It is absurd. The cousin talk in episode 1 threw you for a loop, right? Good. That's what it was supposed to do. Fallout is an absurd universe made with juxtaposition, contradictions, humor, despair, greed. Like, it has all of these opposing elements that work together in this beautifully satirical, magical way that makes no fucking sense and all of the sense at the same time. And that's that absurdity that you need to keep in mind. So seeing a lot of people saying, I loved everything but the New Vegas, it's still canon.
I want to hear the canon!
But also, it is a TV show adaptation. There are going to be creative liberties because there has to be, because now there's an entirely different market being included in that umbrella. And that market cannot be left out, because if it is, then you're just throwing away money at this point. And you have to keep in mind, the people that make these TV shows, these movies that you love, they're still businesses. And the number one goal of business is to make money.
You smell that? What is that?
What?
What's that smell?
Opportunity.
No, money.
You can't pay the crew if you're not making money. You can't pay the actors if you're not making money. You know what I mean? It is to make money. So by alienating an entire audience completely, not angering them, but alienating them completely, it doesn't make sense. And that's not a realistic expectation to have. And if that's the expectation you do have going into video game adaptations, you will never be happy, because there will always be splinters where something doesn't match up one for one. Doesn't mean it has to completely contradict, but it doesn't mean it's always going to be one for one, because it can't in some instances. And for me, like when I watched it through, I watched it before launch, I didn't see that as a discontinuation effort. Like the NCR play, yes. But also, I think this comes from being years working in media, and a part of working as media is doing reviews. And reviews are subjective by nature because they are opinions. You are giving your opinion on a game and having objectivity be that guiding lens. But no review is 100% objective, because at that point, it's not a review, it's just a synopsis. And I think because of that, I am able to have that dual lens of objectiveness and loyalty. Sorry, my phone is going crazy. Oh God, Jesus. Couldn't be a video if I'm not a clusterfuck, right? I forgot where I was going with that. See, this is why I hate doing videos, because I ramble and then I lose my train of thought because a billion people are pinging me all at the same time, always, 24/7. But yeah, regardless, I think that, maybe this transition won't work because I genuinely don't remember what the last thing I said was. ADHD. I think that it is important to enjoy it for what it is. And this is for any gaming adaptation. There are some very bad gaming adaptations. Does anybody remember the Blood Rain one from years and years and years ago? Awful. Awful.
Move this man!
Horrendous even. The Witcher doesn't count because it's based off the books, not the games. It's prequel shit. I think there's a personal accountability that's missing in the TV and game space, but particularly for the topic of this video game adaptations, there's a lack of accountability of, at the end of the day, you are an adult. You are not the creator of whatever experience you are looking at, and you are in charge of your own reactions. You are. There's many things that I do not like that people love, and there's many things that I love that people really do not like. but I recognize my lens is not applicable to everybody, and it shouldn't be, because that sounds really boring. But the difference is specifically with Fallout, there were people having this discussion and being very critical about this particular topic, but they kept it respectful and they kept it to discussing the topic at hand. That is not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people that were calling for death threats and for cancellation. We're not even going to touch all the idiotic people that are, and I'm going to say it, idiot. You're idiotic.
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
I'm very calm and I'm very good at being able to see the other person's side of a conversation, regardless if it's completely the antithesis of everything I think and believe. I'm really good at that. But that anti-woke shit needs to stop. Y'all are ridiculous at this point. Literally, before anybody even saw a trailer, they just saw 3 characters, Ghoul, Lucy, and Maximus. And the comment, oh, I'm not watching this woke bullshit. It's a woman's.
I don't know what we're yelling about! Loud noises!
It was funny, though, watching all of the retractions to that, though, because then it made sense why Lucy was the main character, because she perfectly balanced this naivety that comes from people that live in the vault, versus towards the end where she's just like this hardened survivor because she learns very quickly what the wasteland actually is and how small the vaults really are in the bigger picture of things. And that naivete was more believable with the way she looked, her big doe eyes, her innocence. And that made that stark change into ruthlessness even more evident, because she still retains the same physical features, the big doe eyes, but there's a look in them that's different. And that's subtle storytelling that doesn't need a script. That's subtle storytelling that still paints a picture that is very important. Guys, if a woman or a person of color is in a video game or a TV show or a movie, that doesn't make it woke. Are there some woke shit out there? Yeah. Do you guys remember that Velma show? That was awful. That was horrible. I watched it so you didn't have to. That shit was awful. I don't know what. Things are allowed to be bad, too. Like, it's not the end of the world. Sometimes bad shit is made. Just don't watch it. Just don't play it. There's no crusade, because creative freedom is just that, freedom. You don't like it, go try your hand and make another version yourself that's more in line with what you want to see. I'll take more shit. I'll take more adaptations. I'll take more creative visions. I would love to see universes I love through a bunch of different lenses, which to me is what an adaptation does. I've already played the games. I don't need to replay them. If I'm watching a show, it's because I want to see what that universe looks like through a different lens. And I think that's really beautiful. And I think that we need to really go back to realizing that your opinion is not the golden rule. Your opinion is not the basis of all life and existence and everything in it. It is just that. Your opinion.
That's my opinion!
And really just understand that there is a way to have thoughtful conversation. But when you start, when somebody says woke, I really do tune out, because it's like, you 9 times out of 10, and keep in mind, you may only have like 2 followers, and so you don't see a lot of the conversation, but I see, and my job is to literally wade through these conversations. So I see a much higher volume than your average person on Twitter. 9 times out of 10, if you start out your basis with anti-woke, woke, it is very obvious that you just want to be upset. And that's your right, but don't make it everybody else's problem. We're just vibing. And I think with the Fallout show in particular, there was nothing about the changes. I say that loosely because it is and isn't true at the same time. It's still in line with the games. It doesn't dishonor the games. If you like that very specific path, New Vegas is dirt cheap right now. Go play it. What happens in the TV and the movieverse is not the same as what happens in the video games. If they line up, perfect. If they don't, that doesn't take away from the experience you had when playing the games. That doesn't take away your enjoyment that you had when playing the games. That doesn't take away what you identified with when you played the games. If the show doesn't match up 100% to that, because this is honestly where it is, where there's like this disconnect where something either has to 100% be to your liking or it's awful. And that's just not realistic. And if that's the lens in which you view any type of entertainment, you are going to be a very miserable individual. And I think I don't want that for you. We have so many gaming adaptations coming out that are really going to be good. Arcane was amazing. Last of Us was amazing. Halo Season 2. It's not amazing, but it's much better and it's on the right track. And I think if they keep following that pathway, it could be something really good. And just realize that at the end of the day, it's not that serious. Like, people are dying.
There's people that are dying.
People are dying. People are starving. There's so much shit happening in the world that this is not the hill to die on, because at the end of the day, entertainment is meant to entertain. It is not that serious. And we just are in this loop of my opinion has to be the right one and I'm going to prove everybody wrong. For what? Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? Half the time we retcon our own opinions anyway. Like, people now are coming out of the woodwork saying they loved Mass Effect Andromeda. Now people are coming out of the woodwork saying they loved da-da-da-da. When at release it got horrible reviews and horrible feedback and death threats and all of that kind of stuff. So if we're that feeble in our own opinions, maybe take a step back and realize that your knee-jerk gut reaction might not be the most important thing happening in the world right now, and just approach the conversation from an entertainment level, not a master thesis level, because it's not that serious. It's not. And I know people are gonna be like, well, it did. No, you're overcomplicating. If you say anything but after that, you're overcomplicating it. It really is that simple, because it really is that simple.
It's true.
Nah, I hear you. I hear your butt. It's that simple. And if you don't like something, share your feedback. There's been some really good pieces about the ending that I found really enjoyable, regardless of if I agreed with them or not. I found really enjoyable because you could tell they knew what they were talking about. They backed it up. They made their argument very easy to trace because they were connecting it to the games at each major point. But it's conversational. If you're looking for a crusade, there's plenty of crusades out there that could need people being just as passionate. If you could be just as passionate about things that could be better versus just focusing on the things you hate, which you can see I've really changed a lot of my own philosophy on this, because I used to be very active, quote tweeting, and now I don't. Do I still talk about layoffs and the state of the industry? Yes. But I did that long before I was ever a person laid off, because I was media, and you write enough of these closure stories, you start to paint a picture and you start to connect the dots. And the gaming industry is something I love and I'm very passionate about. So I'm going to make it better. What I'm not doing is cussing out people. What I'm not doing is quote tweeting bad takes and crusading. Let's go, gamers! We must fight the fight! It's video games. It's not that serious. If you don't like the trends in video games, then go to school, learn to program, or don't. There's plenty of jobs in the industry that have nothing to do with programming, which I have a video on my earlier videos. Take that passion and use it to create, not destroy. Create your own game. And if the people on the other side of the conversation don't like it, the same thing applies to them. They can simply not play it. As long as your game isn't perpetuating hate in terms of being like one for one with real life examples and just being a douchebag, you're allowed to not like something. The whole world doesn't need to know about it. And this comes from this innate need that everybody feels like they have to be special. They have to be special. You're already special. Every single person is an individual universe into themselves completely. How fucking special is that? That's so fucking special. So focus that energy on creation. Alchemize that frustration and use it to create versus destroy. Make your own studio. Go to school. Figure out how to work in TV if you want to make TV shows. Like, you just recenter a little bit and realize that it's not that serious. It's not. And with the Fallout stuff, that conversation dropped dramatically in terms of New Vegas, especially after Todd Howard's commentary, because it wasn't him coming after like, fuck you guys. It was a very rational, thought out discussion on what decisions were made and why. And that's what it comes down to, is take the ego out of it and just discuss, have conversations. And if it gets to the point where the conversation is too triggering or too frustrating or too angering, then simply remove yourself from the conversation. But that's on you to do. That's not for anybody else to do. That's on you to do. We are in charge of our own actions. We are in charge of our own reactions. It is what it is. But I am so happy to see all the people loving Fallout. I'm so like, every day I'm going to be so heartbroken when this contract ends, because I not felt this level of joy since Witch Queen, probably. Like, of just pure joy of just seeing all the fan art and their reactions and having fun with people on social, like the Drapes post. I was cracking up the whole time putting that together. And I want people to, regardless of your personal beliefs, to enjoy what they want to enjoy. And I also want you to protect your peace on the things that don't bring you joy. You don't need to keep things in your life that don't bring you joy if you don't want to. But if you make that your entire personality, then your misery is yours to own and your misery is yours to deal with. Stop making it other people's problems. That's just it. But the core of this whole talk is not even necessarily for Fallout. It's specifically because I just want to remind people that it is okay to just enjoy and focus that critique in a helpful manner, because that's only going to help future gaming adaptations. And I don't know about you, but I'm a huge gamer and I am very interested to see the different lenses of some of my favorite gaming experiences, especially the ones that are getting announced in the next 2 years, because holy damn. But at the end of the day, just enjoy. They're video games, they're TV shows, they're not that serious. Just enjoy and let yourself have the freedom to enjoy. You don't have to dissect frame by frame unless that's what brings you joy. But if that's what brings you joy, then you really need to get your reactions under control and learn how to have that dual subjective and objective lens, because that's going to make your review process much more enjoyable for you. And it's going to make just simply existing in these communities much more enjoyable for the people around you, because you're not going to be making your whatever else is going on in your life everybody else around you's problem. So I hope that makes sense. I probably totally fucked this up, but I hope not, because this means a lot. But I hope you enjoy it. If you do, please tell me what you did love, what you didn't love in the comments, because I genuinely am eating it all up. I'm personally on my 4th rewatch now, because every time I watch, I notice details I didn't notice before. And it's just good. It's a good time to be a gamer. So that's it for me. This is a long ass video. Holy shit. But that's it for me. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye, Pen. Remember to always lead with your kindest foot forward. I'm going to do this backwards, apparently. Prioritize self-care and drink your water. Happy people drink water. Thank you so much, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye.